Hey, love technology when it works. This is self-evident, yeah? We're witnessing the meltdown of the iconic American business. The Wall Street Journal recently had an article on the end of excess. We're losing 500,000 jobs a month. The MSNBC about a month ago said the recession is over, the recovery is here. We only lost 500,000 jobs last month. 50 trillion gone. Where'd it go? I asked that question the other night. The woman said, money heaven. Consumer spending falling. This is affecting all of your businesses. 30 of 34 of the leading countries' economies expected to shrink. This is the worst economy since World War II. And the US, the epicenter, could stay flat. This could be an L-shaped recession. Wait a minute, we're all hoping for a V-shape, but so what does collapse look like? Here's one of the reasons. We were borrowing $2 billion a day, largely from the Chinese, the sovereign wealth funds, to buy imported oil, sending that money to the Middle East to folks who don't like us. Your mental model of the world determines what you go and do. What is the name of this organization? And that stands for? Does it? Or is it lifestyles of hedonism and self-righteousness? Testable hypothesis, eh? The answer depends on all of us. When the first Spanish explorers came to California, they were given a map that looked like this. You notice the Caribbean looks fairly accurate. Had this little glitch with California because they had sailed up from one end and sailed down from the other, and they never came together, and so they said it's an island. Literally, the first guys to go over the Sierras carried boats over the Sierras. Oh, I want to catch this. Let's see if that's doing it. They found a beach. They just didn't find much water. Our mental model of what we're about matters a great deal. And I'm deeply grateful to each one of you that you took your time to come and be here today. But as we just saw with the link from Germany, we could have done this virtually. Now, I admit, it would not have been anything like as much fun. Spent yesterday sitting out on the porch with Boyd and Ron of Third Whale, drinking very good whiskey and talking, and could not have done that virtually. Do each of you know the carbon footprint that got you here today? And have you done anything about it? How many of you have read this book? Wow. Homework. This was the #1 best-selling book on Amazon.com for all of 2007. Taleb, despite being insufferably arrogant, was one of the few people to accurately predict the collapse, the timing, the causes. He takes the title from the story, in the old world in England, swans were white, until some fool bumped into Australia, found these very large birds that were, well, black. And they said, well, those aren't swans. Swans are, by definition, white. Until the ornithologist said, actually, they're swans. And they said, oh, yeah, we knew that. Thereby failing to learn any lesson that might have been available to them. Taleb says everything that matters in history, in business, in innovation, and in your personal life is like that. You didn't predict it till it happened. Unlike the bird, it changed everything. And he says these black swan events are accelerating. The crash was a black swan event. I was sitting with some Fortune 100s at a World Business Council on Sustainable Development exercise, literally as the stock market was melting. And you should see the eyes of these guys, mostly guys. Now, this wasn't possible, yeah? Taleb says the winners will be those who are prepared to accept this notion, expose themselves to the information that can help them see when a swan pokes its head up, go, ooh, swan, and rigorously exploit it. This, I would argue, is the opportunity of this movement. So how many of you would have invested in these guys? Particularly the 13-year-old in the corner. Now, I would submit there are some 13-year-olds in this room. Some of you are going to be the billionaires of tomorrow. The reason you will be, though, is not visible to you today. We are facing some real formidable black swans, or as Royal Dutch Shell calls them, drivers of change. Collectively, these will change everything about how you do business. We're losing every major ecosystem on the planet. This is not funny. We are losing the capacity of the planet to support life, let alone health and sustainability. We live in a global climate crisis, economic instability, yeah, volatile energy prices, oil's back over 70 a barrel. Every bit of our infrastructure is vulnerable. China, and India are in the world market for essentially everything. Water, that will be the big resource crisis, much harder to solve than energy. Had food riots on 3 continents, and then what I call the sustainability imperative. When I get done, you can tell me if this is good news or not. Collectively, this is going to change everything. The smart businesses know this. They're preparing themselves for it. The dumb ones won't be here in the future. Climate change. It's very, very much for real. My particular worry is the rivers coming out of the Himalaya because the glaciers are melting. That water is about 2/3 of people on Earth. Those glaciers leave. We are going to see unsustainability on a staggeringly massive scale. Now, we're living very comfortably here. The St. Julian is a lovely hotel. Half the world's people live on less than $2 a day. What are we doing about them? This is the Murray-Darling Basin in Australia. It no longer flows. Used to grow rice in the Murray-Darling Basin. A couple of years ago, the second largest rice mill in Southeast Asia shut down because they can't grow rice. That was one of the triggers of the food crises.